May the goal be to roll. Because in reality's uncompromising realm, where the cyclical status quo will stop at nothing to assert that ambitions and accomplishments are the only means by which one can achieve worthy marginal gains, for those select few who find life's rocky road represents a stern and steep enough challenge, consistency is the sole key to success. Not merely my unwavering sentiments, but ones echoed in mournful monotone by Shoreham Harbour's howling foghorn, as I cautiously cruised along an eerily deserted coast, cloaked in vampiric mist, through which the lithe forms of vulpines scampered, flourishing their bushy tails, while the glowing red eyes of our power station's silent watchtower gazed upon the many anchored vessels below, as if passing stern judgment over their crew's lacklustre parking skills. Retraced my slippery treads back to Southwick after a solitary potter along New Church Road, where the feathered Philharmonic's principal flautists could be clearly heard tuning up from atop of chimney pots and leafless rostrums, many of which still sorrowfully cradled the now empty nests belonging to last spring's long-departed fledglings. The silky surfaces surrounding Portslade Newtown, formerly a tire-shredding gauntlet of battle-scarred bitumen, continue to resist winter's relentless elemental onslaughts rather better than every orphaned piece of office furniture and decommissioned kitchen appliance I loitered past during 2 steady traverses across my hometown's lower suburbs. Signs bearing familiar phrases intended to draw attention or evoke sympathy from soft-hearted and business-savvy curb shoppers, such as "Please take me" or "Some things in life really are free," had evidently done more to attract rising damp. And then, barely seconds after the closing syllables of that abridged literary homage to one of legendary horror director John Carpenter's underrated classics had scrolled off a smeary smartphone screen, the referenced maritime fret melted away, like dry ice in an elaborate conjuring trick, the very moment that a skilled magician has appeared to vanish from centre stage and materialise at the top of a dummy fire escape, leaving their mesmerised audience spellbound and making me ponder whether or not this increasingly nebulous plane of existence, augmented by AI's illusory powers, might well be a spectacularly complex array of smoke and mirrors. "Are you serious?" murmured a mellow southerly breeze, as though hearing my thoughts over the hushed sighs of waves upon shingle, and evoking nervous rustles even from the stoutest palm trees and windswept yucca plants that guarded our peninsula's earliest blooming perennials. "When has any dream made you feel quite this chilled? Until, that is, you wake up in a cold sweat." And then one more encouragingly clement dawn towards our country's more lion than lamb-like spring later, when I finally did resurface from the realm of subconscious make-believe, I embarked upon an arbitrarily scheduled and highly fragmented tetralogy of tangible drop shipments, whose perishable contents were all promptly collected, safely conveyed, and hand-delivered to the alleged account holder, who'd retained each of the 3 convenience couriering services that I, as a freelance supply trafficker, had been officially contracted to carry out odd jobs for. The action, such as it was, picked up at the scene of my last deposit, to a residence situated on Mile Oak's eastern outskirts, itself a subordinate suburb of Portslade, and thus under the managerial jurisdiction of Brighton and Hove's City Council, and should anyone wish to know the difference between a borough, district and city, you clearly have an excess of spare time, so do me a favour and consult one of cyberspace's profoundly learned fact squatters. It wasn't until I'd ground my way out of the referenced metropolis's hilly locality and freewheeled down to Southwick's serene village green for the appended photo opportunity that this ad hoc shift's initial request popped up on my radar. An anonymous consignment from Eastern Avenue's motorist-friendly branch of McDonald's, awaiting whisking across town to Rainbow Square, which by confusing contrast to its namesake Chinese takeaway restaurant, Rainbow House, located fewer than 5 kilometres along the proverbial road, is a secluded cul-de-sac of terraced abodes, nestled behind Northbourne Medical Centre. After Google's smart sat-nav had tried to steer me over a fenced-off communal garden, my mortal course correction skills sent me coiling down an avenue of speed bumps and into the sheltered close, which aside from exhibiting a contemporary style, looked like it had been assembled from a surplus of red bricks and slate-grey bathroom tiling. The pressured parent who answered the door evidently either acquired swift sustenance to complete a record-breaking school run, or had run out of the key ingredients necessary to rustle up a savoury muffin for their ravenous child. Whilst engaged in entering the mandatory 2-digit code to confirm that shipping was complete, I inadvertently accepted another request from the same food ferrying franchise, which none of its app's plethora of options allowed overbooked couriers to discreetly cancel, without placing what I suspected would be a lengthy phone call to autonomous HQ. No matter, I reasoned, after glancing at the order's details. Same pickup point, then a straightforward spin along the seafront to Brittany Road, where Mum and I used to tiptoe through red rowan berries during autumnal ambles to school, and truly ancient stomping ground for a 35-year native of Sussex's central coast. Roughly 20 uneventful minutes and one welcome tow behind a dawdling double-decker later, my second housebound customer's morning hunger pangs had been assuaged, despite a broken doorbell. This professionally financed interval of semi-recreational exercise concluded with 2 assignments back on present home soil, commissioned by the Roomeisters and Just Munchies. Work it out. Who were respectively fulfilling requests for stranded customers of Shoreham's Alpha Cooperative Trader in mass-marketed consumables, and its popular Funky Dragon, another China diner, whose conspicuous and lavish premises stands on our vicinity's high street, and once served as its town hall. However, humble meal-wheelers are obliged to collect their remote clients' freshly prepared provisions directly from the kitchen's fire exit, like some dodgy drugs deal, and where an army of chefs are invariably hunched over giant woks, slavishly stir-frying, flame-grilling, or sustainably spit-roasting every rice, chicken, duck and crispy crustacean-based dish beneath the setting sun, often with an ample side order of ethically trawled seaweed that tastes delicious, despite, as the Night Critters Gazette's eminent food critic once penned, strongly resembling Poseidon's armpit hair. In this exceptional instance, a standard portion of chunky chips, liberally laced with extra hot chili, was all that awaited my half-frozen hands and the capacious confines of a thermally insulated cargo bag. Nonetheless, I pondered, after tapping to confirm that transit was in progress, these spicy potato sticks will constitute a tasty brunchtime snack that one peckish vegetarian, stuck inside a spacious converted dwelling at the bottom of Lower Mill Hill, was indeed delighted to receive. Some purposeful pedal strokes later, at my 4th and final collection point, the imprisoned co-op shopper's order was, mercifully, a single parcel shipment, and only needed transporting around the corner to a house on the corner of Ada Avenue. Pet sitting? I might have asked an eager client, who was awaiting my arrival in the doorway, had I not once again been concentrating so hard on tapping out a 2-digit combination, though the bawling I heard from upstairs sounded distinctly human. Hence, in hindsight, remaining silent was a far wiser choice.